Mr. Garrison.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to be here today. There's lots of important issues, and I just want to note that New Democrats do share Mr. McCauley's concerns about approvals of things where we don't have the details as parliamentarians. But forgive me for a moment. You, Madam Minister, presented us with a picture of Phoenix, and I'm going to present you with a different picture. And that's from my constituents. I represent a riding where we have more than 1,000 people with Phoenix pay cases. We have DND, we have the Coast Guard, we have Revenue Canada. I've got a whole lot of people who don't share your optimism. When you say that you don't have a date when this will be fixed, I just did a little bit of math here. You said you made progress, 5,000 in a month. You said in your pilots you got another 10% improvement. So if you actually do the math on the transactions, that means in about 9 years you'll finish with the outstanding transactions there. That's just not acceptable. And I don't see any plans in anything you talked about today, because I already gave you the credit, right, for your pilot plans in that. So 9 years from now, people can expect to have their pay straightened out. Not good enough. When you said members, you asked us to submit cases.
Yep.
And you did that when I raised this with you in the House of Commons. We submitted 13 cases on the 2nd of February. And you said you responded within 10 days. Let me tell you what your department responded. The request has been sent to the Pay Center for review, period. Not one of those cases has been fixed, and we've had no further information on any of those cases. Those were the most egregious cases, including one of the people who, I'm not going to say where she was employed because I don't have a permission to do that today. Her daughter had to make the decision to drop out of post-secondary education because they didn't want to go further in debt. And the pay problems are so complex in her case that they weren't able actually to get some of the emergency loans and things you say, because nobody can actually figure this out. When you say the number of complaints or number of cases given to you by MPs dropped by 190, yeah, I haven't sent you any more because you haven't dealt with the first 13. Yesterday, I got 80 more cases from DND firefighters in my riding with severe underpayment problems in most of the cases. And with respect, Madam Minister, when you say these are just, you know, not some extra pay or not some substitution pay, people base their family budgets and paying their bills on the pay that they're entitled to get. And when they don't get it, it creates severe problems. So I know you painted a somewhat rosy picture of the progress. I just don't see it. But more importantly, the public servants in my riding don't see it.
Okay. First of all, thank you. And I completely understand your frustration and the difficult situation we've put your constituents in. I can assure you that in no way by suggesting that people were, you know, getting their base pay but other types of pay was I trying to be disrespectful of the fact of the position we put them in. So I apologize if that came across. I think we have to be mindful. This will not take 9 years to resolve. I think what the math I was starting to give your colleague had to do with, if you see a 24% reduction over 4 months in 3 departments, I mean, that's not 9 years. If you can reduce the other 70 some odd percent in the next year or so. We don't know if that's going to be the same results as we roll out the pod project. And we also know that there are some departments, and you've got a nexus of them in your riding between D&D Coast Guard that have extraordinary challenges with both their HR systems and how their systems interface with pay and how they input their data. One of the things we know is this isn't just a matter of technology and pay. This is a matter of HR. Departments are regularly submitting their HR data late, which puts a stress on Phoenix that adds a complication. As soon as a transaction becomes retroactive because it's late, Phoenix doesn't like that. Now, Phoenix shouldn't behave that way, but it does. So what the effort we're making with all departments is to ensure their data is input on time and accurately.
But Madam Minister, even if I give you your 25% improvement across the board, that's 2.5 more years. And in the cases I sent you in February, some of those are outstanding since 2016.
And we'll definitely have to look into those cases.
That means people are waiting 4 years to get correct pay. It's just not acceptable.
I agree.
So your assumptions also are that you're not getting new cases. Are you now telling us that you are not getting new cases and new problems under Phoenix? Because I don't believe that.
No, that's not my assumption at all. I apologize if I gave that impression. I mean, what I'm saying is we are, and Les can help me with the math a little bit, but the number of new cases went down. The number of people affected went down by 11%. We are managing to basically process everything new that's coming in and chip away at the backlog. So the service standard of 80,000 a month, that is coming in. And again, Les, can you give us the more detailed of like a sample month perhaps? Because absolutely we're getting new cases. We're just keeping within our service standard and chipping away at the backlog at the same time.
That's correct. For the 3 departments in the pod pilot, we are keeping on top of the incoming transactions 90% of the time, and that has allowed the resources in the pod to focus on the backlog, as the Minister has said. We've seen that reduction. Going forward, we want to ramp this up exponentially, so at the end of May, we'll be launching another 3 pods for another 12 organizations, and we're working with them now to set up those pods by the end of the month. There will be another wave in September with additional departments and agencies and so on, so that we're leveraging the experience of the work, the people in the pods, to be able to expand the model as quickly as possible, recognizing that the timelines to address these issues are unacceptable.
I guess the last thing I've heard from, especially unions in my riding like the Public Service Alliance of Canada, the National Defence Employees, is that they've given up, and they'd like to see a commitment from the government to abandon this system. They don't believe it's ever going to be fixed. So what are you doing to get a system that's going to work?
Well, obviously, my colleague, the President of the Treasury Board, is tasked with, in parallel with our department, focusing on stabilizing the existing system, because as we all know, we have to pay 300,000 people every 2 weeks. He and his team are working to look at the next generation of pay systems. So what will that look like? How will it interface better with HR systems? Certainly, as was put into budget 2018, the $16 million. Les, is that the right number? I apologize. Yes. To look at the next system. We will not keep Phoenix in perpetuity, but right now we need to focus on stabilizing this system to get us to the point where, first of all, we're handing over clean data to any new system, and second of all, people are being paid in the meantime.
Thank you.